Hey guys, how's it going? I got a friend that dropped off a generator that he got for next to nothing, or for a few bucks, or not much in it whatsoever. I believe it's a Coleman, at least it looks like a Coleman. 8 horse, probably about 3,000 watt generator. Yeah, 33 and a third amps. That's a decent size. 120 volt. I don't see any 220 capacity, unless these plugs down here with the sideways jobbers are. And again, there's no history on this. We don't know much about it. They dropped it off to me to assess it and see what we got, and if all possible, move forward and get it to be a functional unit again. A little bit of scaling in the tank. So I figured we would go and do just that together. One thing I see off the bat, it's missing the muffler, whether somebody just stole that for something else. I'm not sure. Oil's real black, but it's full. Now the problem with generators is too that sometimes you put a bunch of time in them, and then you find out the generator head is no good, and everything you just did was for nothing. So I think probably the best plan of attack is we're going to go set up to see if it has spark. I don't like that. I don't know the deals with that. The governor setup. But see if it gets spark, and then we'll plug something in, and we'll see if we can get it to run long enough to see if it has an output. We'll kind of go from there. So let me get the camera set up and we'll move on. Well, the first thing I don't see is it doesn't have any kind of kill switch, on and off switch. I do see, if you guys can picture what I'm looking at, but down there's no wire coming off of here. I have a feeling that tab was probably the kill wire. But I figure we'll go yank the plug out of it and we'll see if it has any spark, just as it is, and we'll kind of go from there. Let's see what we get. It's got spark. Full start's not retracting very good. Yeah. Pull start you gotta wind in by hand. Obviously that's deficit number 1. So let's probably plug a light into it with a regular bulb, and then I want to try to dump some gas down the plug hole. We'll give it a yank, see if it fires, and we'll see if the light kind of goes and lights up for a second and goes away. If it does that, then we know the generator head is okay. Sometimes they need to get up to a certain RPM before they even put anything out though. But let's take one step at a time and just see if it first runs and then also makes any light at that same process. I got a light on there. Made sure the light was turned on. Let's give her a little. As it runs out the exhaust, that should make for good fire coming at you guys. Fire makes views. Let's see, get anywhere. This is going to be one of those things. Should make some kind of apparatus up that I could spin an engine over. 3,600 RPMs without it running. Last time. I'm gonna try a little ether down the intake. So much nicer if the full start was working. But once you start doing that, then you're in it, you know? You also start chasing everything. Starter fluid, what do we got? Thrust starting fluid. I had a delusion that I do this a couple of times and the full start would free itself up. And the other thing that kind of concerns me is somebody would have stole the muffler off of it, that it started to turn into a parts machine. So unfortunately that didn't tell us much. I didn't see any kind of flickering or anything, but at the same token, I also did not get it spinning fast enough to do what it needs to do. So I'm going to go monkey around with it a little bit and see what we can kind of catch. Let's try one with the choke off. I thought I had it in the off position, but I did not. So. There we go, that's what I was looking for. A little sputter of light. We know the output of that is working okay. So now we can kind of dig in. Pull start's on the list. Of course, we got to pull that carb and float ball and see what lovely things are waiting for us in there. I got the carburetor off. Let's go crack her open and see what's on the inside. These guys have the jet goes right through the center of the float ball, and you have to pull this out before you can separate the bowl anyway. Let's see what we get. Yeah, I believe we got to unthread that guy out of the center there. Let's find a screwdriver that'll fit. Ah, yeah. Nothing like that nice crack sound. Not coming out all gummy neither. That's a good sign. All right. Not bad, a little corrosion on there, but not terrible. Now we should be able to split the body of it and get into the bowl. Not bad at all. Looks pretty clean to me. The float's kind of bottoming out on that. Now, well, you guys can be able to see it, but down inside the needle and seat, that's the needle. teats down in there. At first I thought it was moldy, but it's not. It's just green of sorts. Does that show? Battery's flashing. It's gonna kick out on me. All right, I'm gonna change your battery. So it's the next day, and let the carb soak overnight. Well, half the carb soak overnight. I didn't want to do the top half because the top half has the seat in it for the needle and seat. I didn't want to expose that, and I didn't want to try to damage it taking it out because I'm, as of now, not paying for a carburetor kit or buying a carburetor kit for this. And that looks just fine. I also left the float in there too to see if it decides to take any fluid on. I hear rattling. The rattling's my jacket. So the that guy looks like it's okay. Brass, the solder joints seem to fail over time, so that's why I kind of wanted to soak that and see what happened to it. But I think that should be just fine also. So I think the next thing I want to attempt before I put the carburetor assembly back on is getting the pull start cover off, and we'll fix that retract problem that's going on there. So let me see if I can get that out of there. Hopefully I can get it out without having to unbolt it from the cage and shift the cage out of the way, see if there's enough room to get that to pop in and wiggle its way out of there. So let me get started on that. Alright, screws are out. Let's see if we can wiggle that cover off of there. Oh, that was rough, huh? So I wouldn't say the pull start is really the issue. It's more than likely gonna, yeah, this guy right here. That's supposed to be a ratchet inside there. Little check balls. But that feels like it's quite galled up. So I'm gonna go through the process of, we're gonna get that center out of there. Let's see if we can do it while the camera's rolling. Under pressure. You guys need a better spot to see, maybe? How about something like that? So what on the inside, the shaft of the motor continues to come out through here, and then this is an external piece. So we have to spin this off of there. So wherever way your pull start is, that's always tightening, that's always loosening. So see, I could jam a big old screwdriver and fins. These fins are cast also. They should be able to take a hit. So you start throwing stuff. Sometimes if you go and you're yanking a pull start, and then when you're done, it yanks the pull start right back at you. This will be what's causing it too. So it's just a buildup of crap. You guys see that black stuff that's on there? Now it should come off fairly easy. But that's the offending material right there. It's a little pitted on the end too. So I'm gonna take some fluids and some Scotch-Brite. I'll go clean that up, and I may have to go to do the same in there. Clean that up. We got to get that so when it spins on, that part spins free. Let me go take care of that. Here, somebody might want to see what's on the inside of that. So that's that cover. It just pretty much sits on there with a light press fit. This is on the center of the shaft, and when you pull the pull start, you're pulling on this cog, and what happens is it jams. See how it jams the balls up, and then the other way it's allowed to go free. Just pushes the balls out of the way, but then when you give it a yank, it catches on one. Each one has its own hole. Make sense? And then when it's just spinning normally, it's not like these things are bouncing back and forth all the time. Once it's running, then it's normal. This is just when you're pulling the pull start, it locks it one direction, and when this pull start needs to retract and curl back up, it's allowed to do that with the balls getting checked out of the way. But when this starts getting drag on the shaft, it can't return, and that's what you saw when I was trying to start it. I had to go feed it back in my hand because of this. Now this is cleaned up, and so is the shaft, but the oil that goes in there is, you're going to be tempted to just put like motor oil or something on there. It's too heavy of an oil. You got to use like a automatic transmission fluid is a good oil, nice thin oil or machine oil to go in there, or else you're gonna have problems with drag still, because it's just a little too thick for what it is. So I'm gonna go reassemble that. I'm gonna put a couple of dribbles of oil on that, and they usually have a little pee hole in the top of it to be able to access some of it too, but if you have to take it apart to clean it, you're probably gonna oil it from the inside. So we are gonna go put all that back together. And that's the nut. That's the nut that also holds on the flywheel. So if I needed to take the flywheel off, I would pop that off of there. But this system does not have points because there is no wire running behind the magneto with the flywheel. So it is brakeless. It does not have points inside the system. It's all right in the coil itself to have the signal turn on and off. So let me get that cleaned up, get that put back on there, get the pull start on, and see if we can start reassembling it. Alright, so that's all back together, and now it's free, and you gotta hit the pull start, and one of those balls gets locked in its channel and does its thing. It's also wrong. I think this does spin all the time, but I think when it starts up, the gravity, centrifugal force pushes all the balls to the outside, and it kind of makes it in a neutral situation. They're not clicking all the time. And for the pull start itself, there's a clock spring underneath there. I really don't want to take all this apart, take the tabs, bend them up. You can kind of get it out of there, but it becomes a big mess. But it doesn't hurt to kind of go put a little bit of oil down inside there too, and you can see the little bits of the clock spring there, and we'll do a little dab inside there also. So I'll work that a little bit. That should wet the back side of it when I spin it around a couple of times, and then we'll get that cover back on there. So I'm reassembling that carburetor, and I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I just want to show. You see how that float has an air gap on that side, and then it's coming down to almost touching the body over here. I don't like that. I usually like to see it kind of level, roughly about like that. A lot of times they call for a certain size drill bit, and you lay the drill bit down right here, and that would be your feeler gauge of sorts to set it up. But again, I'm going to just bend the tab on the end of the float to tweak that so that's level going across. For those who don't know what I'm talking about by the tab, let's see if I could do this without smashing it onto the floor. Let's see you guys work one-handed. What I wouldn't do for a pair of needle nose. So that little tab that it sits on right there, that guy, focus. That guy right there needs to be bent up a little bit, and the more that you bend that, the more it shuts off. The needle gets pushed up into the hole just a little bit earlier and shuts the fuel off a little bit higher. And again, the only problem with having that the way you saw is that it may have a tendency to flood out the float. The fuel level in the bowl will end up being too high, and that can cause an issue. So that's why I'm going to go correct that. And that's it, back together after the fact. And you see how it's nice and level going across now. That's what I'm looking for. You actually can see it lifting that needle in the bottom corner down there. Right down there is where we're looking. I'd zoom, but it's going to get foggy if I zoom. So that's that, and we're going to go reassemble the rest of the carb, which there is really not that much to, and then we're just going to check and make sure that that valve works by blowing air through the inlet. When it's upside down, it should be blocked because the float is, you know, pushing down. And then when you flip the carburetor over, the float, you want to make sure that nothing's interfering with it, and it can hang clear, and you can blow air through that passage. Looks like somebody's got a present from Canada. Should be Tundra parts, the rear differential. Let me go get that. Well, that kind of sucked. He goes and he wheels it out, and it was a front differential, not a rear differential. So there is the problem of that. So I had to refuse it, unfortunately, and I am still now on the hunt for the correct part. So I'm back in my hoard trying to hunt down a muffler assembly for that. And well, it looks like the ID is kind of large. I know it's dark in here. That one might be close. I'm going to see if I can hammer that out, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to spin that one out of there or not without removing everything. I would think I would have a loose one somewhere. That one might, right there. Yeah, maybe we can tap that one out of there if it's any good. So let me do some digging, see if we can come up with a muffler. And let's see how she runs. Got some gas in it. Gas is on. I do not have a muffler that fits it, so we're going to run it for a few minutes without that. As long as everything else is okay, I'll just buy a new muffler for it. Let's choke on. Try to put out the choke. that's a little quieter. I was trying to set up the RPMs for 3600. Probably what I will end up doing though, because that didn't work, is maybe go with voltage. We'll check the voltage, put a light on it for a little bit of a load, and try to adjust it for 120 volts and see how that makes out. So I'm going to leave it at that. With the light plugged in, it was 125 volts. That's fine. It's within the 10% range. And the light was on also as a load. So as you probably put a little bit more load, that might drop a little bit. But again, that's fine. So I think changing the oil on this, giving it kind of good cleanup. I'm going to let it run for 10-15 minutes outside after the oil change. As long as everything seems like it's fine and doesn't need any more tweaking, this guy is done. So again, thanks everybody for watching, commenting, subscribing. Take care. And we get some fresh oil in there.